I am Peggy Peterson. I'm a quality nurse specialist with Constellation Quality Health, and we're glad that you have joined our quality leader meeting today. And this session is going to be recorded and will be available on YouTube under Constellation Quality Health for future viewings. If you have staff that would like to uh, join and view the program. But I am excited to welcome Amanda Bulgarelli. She is a Chief Operations Officer of Positive Approach to Care, and she's going to lead us with the presentation on dementia and long-term care and effective staff training. This session is going to focus on valuable insights into effective dementia care programs and practices and strategies for developing comprehensive staff training programs to enhance quality outcomes across long-term care settings. Amanda has been part of Positive Approach to Care since its inception, working alongside founder Teepa Snow. She draws upon her extensive education background, and Amanda focuses on improving awareness around brain change and supporting the creation of inclusive, person-centered care environments. Thank you, Amanda, and we are so excited to hear what you have to share with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Peggy. And hi, everybody. It's good to see y'all showing up in the sidelines there. We're going to try to pause every 15 minutes or so and do questions. I know we probably won't get to all of them, and at least that gives us a little list of questions so we can always come back afterwards and I can share back information. And that means that you've got to use the chat or unmute and speak up if you have something that you feel like is like appropriate right in that moment. This is for you. So this is an opportunity for you to say, whoa, slow down, pause, and let me know how things are going. I've kept this up here so that you could see, you do have access to the slides in a PDF form on our website. It'll stay up for roughly 2 weeks. And you'll be able to get there by either scanning that code with your phone or going to that link afterwards. And I have it at the end of the slides as well, in case you didn't get to it or you're joining us later. All right, well, let's get started. We are today talking about, as Peg said, increasing staff engagement. So one of the first things that we introduce in our leadership course about how to implement positive approach to care is assessing, not assuming. So many of us know that people who work in this place know dementia. They either have personal experience, they have training experience, they have video experience, they have some kind of knowledge around dementia. But we don't often check in on how they feel about doing the work that they're doing, not in an accurate way. We sometimes do surveys or we do assessments that are quote unquote anonymous. What do you guys know about those surveys and tests and things that are quote unquote anonymous of your staff? Are they accurate in reporting back how they're actually feeling, what they actually like, don't like? And are they actually anonymous? Because sometimes I'm afraid to put something on there if I fear for my position or my job or my well-being if the answer doesn't match what you're looking for. So this is a kind of way to do a better or different assessment of how staff are feeling, what's going on. You could do it within a leadership team. You could do it with staff on a specific unit or neighborhood. You could do it across the whole campus, or you could even put it up as a bulletin board with a marker that people could write or circle or put a check mark. They could write their names if you're in a space that has a healthy culture where we're okay sharing where I feel really and truly. The first step is to start thinking bigger about assessment. How do we really grow our assessment tools and skills as leaders, not just coworkers? So I want to start to facilitate conversations that are a little bit safer. This is called a feelings tree. Now, this is something that I picked up when I was a teacher, because it encourages visual thinking as well as sort of open-minded thinking. So curiosity around this. In school, we would have said how I feel about math. And that would give me a good assessment of how are kids feeling that they are doing in one of the subjects. So for this side of things, we'll switch it up. And I'm going to give you a few prompts, and you can put in the chat what number you feel like you fit. And there's really no other parameters around it. You can just put a number in. So how do I feel about dementia? When you hear the word dementia, which of these people fits where you feel? So go ahead and throw it in the chat. Pick a number that you feel like fits a feeling that you have about dementia. All right, we have a couple of 13, and then, oh, we have over here 13, and then 10, gaining some stability. We got a 21. Where's 21? Up here. Okay. 7. Oh boy. Holding onto that tree for dear life. So now what I would do as a leader is I would use our trainer cycle, which is Teepa's adult experiential learning cycle. So we've just had this experience and we've seen where people, I would have you put Post-its if we were in person, but we can't do that easily. We've seen kind of where people place themselves. So now we want to ask a question about what happened for you? Why did you place yourself where you did? And so we'd start to experience and hear from each of you, why did you put yourself at 13? That's an interesting choice. It doesn't look very happy. And yet you're choosing to work in this space. So that's an interesting feeling that you're bringing with you. And why did you put yourself at 10? It looks like you're feeling sort of stable or something else. So we can start to really get the feedback from you as the team that I'm working with. Because if I don't really know where everybody's starting, if everybody's starting at 5 down there at the bottom, man, I want to get really curious about that. Why is that happening for you? Why is that occurring for you? And then I want to start to explore the next step of the cycle, which is, okay, so what does that mean for how you are coming into every day at work? Are you experiencing sort of anticipatory distress? Are you excited to come in? Or is it like, when you think about coming into work, what happens for you? Because this idea that feelings and thoughts are totally separate things, the more I know and learn about dementia in the role I'm in, maybe the better I feel, or maybe the worse I feel about what I'm doing. So if we're going to look at staff retention, we want to start by doing an assessment, not just of the knowledge that people have got, but of how they feel about their role. So that's dementia. Let's try a different prompt. Okay, how do you feel about, now you need to put in a new number, my culture at work? How do you feel about the work culture, your environment that you're in? When you walk in, what's the culture like? You feel more of like a 14 or more of like a 15? Where do you feel? Let's go ahead and throw a number in there. 11. Oh, Peggy and Brooke, you guys are like right on target with each other. That's funny. Okay. 18. Good. 15, 18. Oh, cool. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this one seems a little bit more, I'm noticing a lot more of the faces on these guys have turning up at the end, like they're smiling almost. So did it change for you from the first prompt to the second prompt? And if it did, that means that we're asking good questions because I'm having you think. You're not just reacting or saying the thing that you think I want to hear. And so let's keep going. We would do the same cycle. Why do you think that happened? Why are you feeling that way? What does that mean for how you're coming into work? Okay, what's one thing that would turn it up for you, would make it feel better or more exciting? Now, here's another prompt. Oh, one. Oh, Lisa, let's see if we can get that to a different place, because if everybody else in the team is feeling at 15 and 18, and then we've got Lisa who's at 1, we want to check in on that. And if it was anonymous and I didn't have names, that would be really freeing for me to really say, I'm at a 1. Everybody else is like up there, but I don't feel like the culture fits me. And it's really important to open up the floor to hear that, because you're not going to get that anywhere else. What Lisa will do is just leave. And that's the thing that we're trying to prevent, is that turnover. If we're not assessing accurately, then we're missing the whole thing about how people are doing. All right, here's another one. I'm just going to give you a couple more examples. How do I feel about the amount of dementia education and skill training as prep? What do you think your staff would answer? What do you think the team would answer? What do you think maintenance would answer? What do you think leadership would answer? So start thinking about how you could incorporate something so simple as a feelings tree into your assessments. Nice. Oh, back to 13. Yeah, Brooke, it gets tough. So notice how much of your brain you're using. Notice how many of your experiences, how much of your day-to-day life you can kind of sum up in one of these feelings right now. And isn't that cool? If we use it well and in a place where it's safe. What we don't want to do is say, okay, who put 10? Okay, now, so you're going to actually, oh, good, Lawan, you're actually going to now go out and you're going to train everybody since you feel good about it. Okay, you're going to go out and train everybody. Okay. We got to stop jumping over the big conclusion there and slow it down and start asking questions rather than making assumptions. Even from this, you could jump right over to assumptions and jump right over to task and job instead of slowing it down and getting more curious. Okay, and here's one more question. How do you feel about the skill of the staff for the job that they're being asked to do? How do you feel about the skill of the staff for the job they're being asked to do? And that includes leadership, it includes maintenance, it includes housekeeping, it includes dining staff, it includes the staff of CNAs that are nursing or doctors. Whatever you've got in your space, the whole staff is included in this. How do we feel about the staff skill? And so these are all places where we can start figuring out, where are we and where do we want to be? And are they a match? And if they're not a match, how do we get closer to where we want to be? If I want everybody at 20, I got a long way to go if I've got folks at 1 or 5 or 8. There's spaces for us to start to have deeper and more meaningful conversations if we have good data from the outset. Because what's the answer on the staff satisfaction survey of how much do you like your job? How much do you feel like it's fulfilling? Super fulfilled, totally great. I love my job. I wouldn't be here if I didn't, until it's not. And those are the pieces that we want to start to tease out. All right, so that's just an example of some of the stuff that we do in our leadership course, where you can start to figure out, how do I change culture from the position that I'm in, when I'm not necessarily the one that's going to be moving out onto the floor and offering a shower or even scheduling staff. Those are pieces that you don't necessarily do, but you've got to figure out, how do I present this in a more positive approach kind of way that it'll be accepted and not feel like I told you to. Because what we're seeing a lot across the board in long-term care is a lot of emotional distress. A lot of emotional distress. So for you guys thinking about how many times in one day do you see these? And how many times in one day are you not getting your needs met on the right? And these are places, there's not a right or a wrong answer. It's simply something we want to start to get really curious about as leaders. Are we even out and noticing and observing, or are we in our office behind a closed door because we're trying to get stuff done and we're missing? Because the other question is, how much do you not know about that first question? The more we learn about what works in organizations like this, the more we start to understand that it's treating every person at every level in the organization as a leader and with dignity and respect, and asking permission before we move forward. And what we find in organizations that are less healthy, the staff who are often blamed or have high turnover are treating the residents, the people that they care for, how they've been treated by leadership or in their past life, because we're not actually showing them what the care looks like that we want. We're not demonstrating, so they're basing it on whatever they receive in their history. We also know that folks who work in this field are typically not getting enough rest, are typically not having a lot of fun, do not have a lot of time for themselves, are not in a healthy space with eating and drinking and exercise, and are really feeling a little bit overwhelmed, stressed all of the time. And so those amygdala places where we're living, it's not in the sort of low amygdala, which is our threat perceiver in our brain. We're living in a high distress situation all the time. And that means that our brains don't have a moment to like come back down. Because how many of your team, how many of your staff go straight from a really high distress job home to a high distress life where they're also multi-caregiving for 6 other people in their lives, and back to work and back to home, and there's no place in any of that space where they're really focused on what are my needs getting met. All right, we're going to pause there for just a moment, and I'm going to open the floor for any questions that have come up. Very briefly. All right, any questions that we have looming for right now? I don't see any in the chat. All right, we're going to keep going. If you think of them, throw them in the chat. Okay. Here's the problem. We think to create a positive care culture, right? All you have to do is just show everybody the dementia content. You just show them what to do. You get our videos, often they're Teepa's videos, they're really good. And then you show them the care routines, and then you put down the schedule of what's supposed to happen when, and then you give them the skills and the techniques. And then you'll be there, right? Unfortunately, what happens is there's still this big gap, because watching a video is not the same as having practice skill with feedback. We are missing that across the board. A great example I like to give is either flying a plane or putting in an IV. I watched 8 hours of video. That's the requirement at most state levels. Would anybody be willing to fly in the plane with me after 8 hours of video, or allow me to put a needle in your arm? The truth is, video is good for knowledge. Video is not good for skills training. And the fact that we have zero demonstration of skill required across the board is the problem. So the first step is yes, you get everybody from unaware to aware with those videos. You bridge that gap first. Absolutely. It's a required step. You need everybody on the same page, same language, same content. But then there's still this huge gap to get to a positive care culture. And so that's where you start to develop people who are knowledgeable and they can then train and lead others. And then you develop people who are really skilled, and that's a smaller group. Not everybody can be really skilled in all areas. Each person will have their niche, and not everybody is meant to do that really deep skill. So we want to find our champions. We want to find out who's really good at this stuff and build their skill. And we don't want to build them out of their role, because that's the other thing that we'll do sometimes. We'll be like, wow, you're so good at this. Can you train all the staff? But then you just removed me from the place that I had skill and put me in a place that I don't have skill. I'm not an educator or a trainer. I'm really good with people and the skills of hands-on care. So those are some of the places where we want to start to think as a team, as a leadership team. Where are we taking people out of the position that they're good at to, give them the ladder of ascension, versus how do we build better ladders within that role? How do I designate somebody who's super skilled as a champion, hands-on care, versus somebody who just joined us a month ago? If we don't have some sort of leveling up within that role, then it means that I'm going to start losing people, because I don't want to do that other job. I want to do the job I'm good at. And if the only way up is into management or into training, it doesn't fit what I want to do. So I'm out, because now I'm out of my skill set. I'm not very good at that piece. So we want to really think about what are the skills, and then how do we build that into the organization? And then we can become competent as a whole organization. Once we have top to bottom, everybody skilled in the right places, then we'll build competence. So what we like to say is, where do you start? Where do you get started? Because everybody thinks, I'm going to start with that 25% of people in my organization who don't want to change. They really have been fighting me, but I know if they would just do it, things would be better for all of us. We like to start with that 25%, those tough, been around for a long time, not really interested in changing. I'm solid as a rock. And instead, we miss the 25% that we actually should work with, which is over here, the people with their hands up in the air, early adopters. I want to try it. Sure, yeah, I'd like to do that. Oh, you're going to a conference? Yeah, I'd like to go. We want you to start with those early adopters, not the rock, because that takes a lot longer to build trust and find a place where you're willing to open your hand and ask or accept. Over here, you're already jumping for it, because the difference is 50% in the middle. We call these the wait and see folks. Get the early adopters on board, get some skill going, get some wins, have them have some successes. The wait and see folks start to go, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. And then the balance shifts. And then those rocks have to decide if they're going to accept the change or if they're going to find somewhere else that's a better fit. But starting with them is just going to end up with a battle. And every time, because it's you trying to explain something to someone else. And we know that doesn't go well. So this is kind of how we picture and work through organizational changes. When you think about where do we even start? Oh my gosh. So we have our early adopters. Those are our people or the stakeholders within our organization. They are the people that we want to start with, and they're not the only people in the organization. And it's not the only part of the organization that matters. So we talk about these 6 pieces of the puzzle that Teepa created. We have the 3 on the top, which are the organization itself, its history, its mission and values, what we provide, how big are we, where are we? And then we have the health and wellness of the organization. Are we a good, healthy culture? Is it more toxic? What do people feel like? Do we have enough resources and revenue coming in? Do we have enough people coming in? What are our fuel sources? Do we partner with a nursing school? What does that look like? So health and wellness of running the organization. And then last but not least, the executive center, the brains of the organization. That's our leadership. How do we make decisions? Who makes decisions? Is it a board? Is it one person? What does that look like? And what are our gym states? How are we when we're at work? Are people more in emerald loops, or do they actually get sapphire and get to be like flexible and fun? And so those are the three we want to know about, but we can't directly make changes. We can make changes that cause an impact or outcome change. So this is where we set our goals. I want to see a healthier organization. I want to have a better decision-making team. Those are the outcomes, but the other three pieces of the puzzle are where we actually can make changes to it. So we can change the people, we can change their skill, we can change their information, we can change everything about them, but that's a shift that we can make for the people. And then the second one is the environment. So we can change our environment. It doesn't always feel like it. Once you put up that picture, it feels like that's where it lives forever. Once you put it in the bathroom, that's it. We're not doing anything else with it. And yet we actually can change the physical environment of a space. And last but not least, time use. How we use time, how we structure time, how we partner people, or do we partner people? Those are the changes we can make to impact those first three pieces of the puzzle. So the starter is just to get curious about those pieces of the puzzle. Start filling out for your organization those first three pieces, and do it in teams. Do it with your leadership team. What are the positions that we have? What are the personalities on our executive team? How are we with transitions and changes? Have we had any recently that we can assess? Who gets to decide which ones we go for and which ones we don't do? What are our core driving values? What's our history, relationships, our gem states? So as a team, you start to fill in the data, and you do it in a way that's really just capturing. We're not making judgments. We're not making changes. We're just getting the data in there. Once we've got those three pieces filled out, then we go, okay, what are two things in each box that we really feel good about? Like we've worked hard, or we already have this. So I'll give you an example. The group that I just worked with yesterday, they are really good at collecting data and pulling it back up immediately. That is my weakest area, and they're really good at it. So we want to know that kind of thing, because the other skill set that they have is that they have a willing staff. Staff are willing to try things. Amazing. The thing that they still struggle with is turnover. The retention rate is really, really low. So how do they make impact on that? Those are all really within that health and wellness and psychology. Where would we make shifts? So where we started was we decided, let's make a shift in the stakeholders, the individuals in this organization. Let's beef up 4 pilot sites so that we know who's skilled, who's a good trainer, who's a good coach. Let's train them really intensely. And then we're going to start to see that hopefully ripple effect out. So that was their first change. So you pick the ones that you feel like, what do we want to see change? And then over on the right side, you pick the change that you're going to try to impact those first 3 pieces. And so with the staff, with us going into an organization, everyone will say, we know our staff knows dementia, our team knows dementia really well. And sometimes that's true. But the fact is, unfortunately, we are still at a place where many people actually don't know the newest or most up-to-date information about dementia. So I would recommend putting this on a bulletin board where everyone, families, friends, staff, yourself, you can start putting in some information. And again, it's not a judgment, it's not an actual assumption about do they know dementia or not. We're not looking for right, wrong. This is called a KWL chart because it's what do I know or think I know about dementia? What do I want to know about dementia? That's the W. And what have I learned about dementia? So this one I would block out because we're not going to do that until we've started our staff education and training. Until we beef it up, I want to pause on that one because anything that people are coming to the table with before we start our education, it's knowledge that they think they have and not necessarily learning that I've taught them. And so we want to really make that distinction of what are you coming in with? And then what are you taking away from what specifically we've done? So that last column, I would black it out and not let them put anything there until after you start your trainings that are more specifically about dementia. Because we put this quiz on our site. If you want to go check it out, please feel free. You can see how you do. You can send every staff member there. And if they put some sort of organizational thing, we can give you results. But the whole idea is starting to really get accurate, not assuming. So with the very first question, we see a lot of different answers. And I've been doing these speaking engagements for 10 years now. And I will say, I still get in a room full of accomplished neurologists, doctors, physicians, folks who run long-term care, CNAs, nursing, across the board, families also. When I ask this question, what is dementia? Problems with memory, another word for Alzheimer's, something all older people get, another word for a failing brain, or I don't know. What do you guys think are some of the most common answers? It doesn't have to be your answer. It might be, but what do you think are some of the most common answers that I'm still getting? Let me pull up the chat so I can see. A, yep. D, sometimes. A, B, You got it. So you guys nailed all three that I get. So I get a lot of A, an equal amount of B, and a few of D. So now what is the real answer? It is actually D. A and B are incorrect. And yet that is still where I would say 50% of folks answer, at least. Maybe closer to 80 or 90%. So why is that? Why is it that people think that dementia is the same as Alzheimer's, which is the same as memory problems? In fact, we even have it in the NIH descriptor. It says Alzheimer's and related dementias. That's inaccurate because dementia is actually not related to Alzheimer's always. There are lots, yes, Jewel, there's lots of different types of dementias. Dementia is the overarching category. But because Alzheimer's and memory have been around, those two words have been around for so long, and the Alzheimer's Association is the best known organization. They've had the most time and marketing. Unfortunately, people associate those two things as the same as dementia. So this is where most people are around the whole world. Dementia is the same as Alzheimer's, or the same as memory problems. What we know is true is actually no, those are not the same. They're not equal. But the better answer is that dementia, which is an umbrella term, is much greater than Alzheimer's, which is a type of dementia. And memory problems, that's a symptom mostly associated with Alzheimer's. There are a few others that memory becomes an issue early on. But Alzheimer's in particular, memory is impacted very early, the hippocampus. Time travel is also located there, as well as wayfinding. So with Alzheimer's, we have a high impact on that hippocampus. With vascular, we may not at all. And with FTD, it's possible that parts are different, or it may not be as impacted. So it really depends on the person and the type of dementia as to whether or not memory will even come into play until later on in the course of the disease. So once we know that memory problems are a symptom of Alzheimer's, which is a type of dementia, now we can have different and better conversations with our staff because I'm not having trouble with memory, but you still can't get me to take a shower. Why is that? What's going on? What about families that come in and say, well, I don't know if she can do anything because she doesn't remember my name. Well, if that's Alzheimer's, yeah, that's possible. And she's still got a lot of skills left. But the more staff know about these specific symptoms of dementia, each type of dementia, the more educated they feel, so the less that they will back off or get scared when things aren't matching what they think of when they think of dementia, which is memory problems. So the more we can inform staff, the better. These are the four truths about dementia, is that at least two parts of your brain are dying for something to be under the category of dementia. There also right now is no cure or stop for it. There are a lot of treatments that are in trial. So far, none of them have proven to accurately do the thing that we're hoping, which is stop it or cure it. There are some medications that are good for getting rid of some symptoms some of the time for some people. Not all dementias respond the same. Not all people respond the same to medications. So it's really something to be really cautious and curious about. And it's not a never, it's just right now we don't have a cure. And dementia, if it's a true dementia, it will keep progressing. Even if, for example, under vascular dementia, it won't progress in a sort of straight diagonal. It will actually progress what looks like I'm fine for a while. I'm maintaining, I've got a good solid baseline, and then I'll drop totally off the map and I'll come back up, but not quite to where I was, and I'll stay flat for a while, and then I'll drop and I'll come back up, not quite where I was. It's called a stepwise progression. So a very different progression pattern than Alzheimer's, which is more linear. The more we know as people working in this field, the better we feel about making decisions, the better we feel about seeing quote unquote behavior and knowing why it's happening. Because here's the other thing that people don't often know. What changes for us as we age? What do we lose function in? So this is a healthy 20-year-old and a healthy 80-year-old. No dementia, no neurodegeneration. And they are lying in a PET scan machine before they take their animal fluency screen, which goes through their prefrontal cortex up here in the front, at the top of the slide. And then their temporal lobes, which are these kind of like chunky pieces here, left and right temporal lobes, language and rhythm. Their limbic system, which is that primitive part of their brain in the middle, that's the hippocampus here. That's that memory and wayfinding and time. The thalamus, hypothalamus, that's your blood pressure, you're keeping your body warm or cold or whatever. Breathing. And then the amygdala, those are the threat and pleasure sections of the brain. And on the sides, you get a little bit of the sensory motor strip. You can see it a little bit. That actually covers out here a good chunk of your brain. And then in the back of your brain, you have your occipital lobe. So looking at a 20-year-old and an 80-year-old's brain, now that you see them here, are they more similar or different? Are there drastic or big changes anywhere, or is everything kind of the same? What are you guys noticing? So yeah, Mary, I think you're on it. Looks very similar. Does anyone see a spot where there is a big change? And I bet you'll know why. Occipital lobe is in the back of your head, and it's where you process what you see, the vision. Yeah, Lisa, you got it. Vision changes as we age. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have noticed shifts and changes in a typical aging brain at around 40. And then you'll have another big change around 60. And it's actually, you lose peripheral. So your peak is age 25. You can see almost a whole 180 degrees. As we age, it's about a degree per year with just healthy, typical aging that we lose that peripheral field of vision. It's not like it goes black, it just kind of doesn't come into focus for us. It's not something that we can really hold in center field vision. Oh, that's exactly right. So totally healthy aging, typical aging. So as we age, the only thing that we actually lose a little bit of function in is our vision and our ability to hear high-pitched sounds, because there's little hairs in there and they kind of lose their, either they shrink or they lose their ability to get those high-pitched sounds. So those are the two changes that happen for us with healthy aging. With dementia, things look really different. We lose function in our word finding ability, in our ability to understand people's speak, talking, the one with that, the other thing with that. We also have trouble making words and making sentences make sense or come out. So dementia changes a lot of different parts of the brain. And if you notice loss of function, that's something to get curious about. It is not typical for aging. A healthy aging brain, we just slow down. How many of your staff know that? How many of your staff don't know that? How many of your leadership team know that? So this is the kind of place where we really want to start delivering information that's accurate, but it's a broad brush. Everybody gets the same content, because then we can do better assessments on knowledge. Because here, look at this, just the bottom one. The top one is a higher slice. So you're really just looking at motor, sensory motor movement. But check out this bottom slices of brain. This is the healthy, typical aging. Older adult with early Alzheimer's, late Alzheimer's, and then a healthy 18-month-old child. So what are you noticing about the typical aging healthy brain versus early in Alzheimer's? Kind of similar, pretty similar like the last two, or really different already? Yeah, really different already. Especially with Alzheimer's, check out the hippocampus. That was these little dots here at the end. The brain tissue just isn't even there. So this purple section, that's like where you've got ventricles. Those are holes where your brain can clean it with fluid. And that structure of the brain, red means it's like 100%, yellow 50, green 35, 25, light blue, it's active, but it's not like doing anything. It's just ready, it's tissue, it's healthy. But the purple is those holes. And so your amygdalae, your threat perceivers are turning on high because I'm having a hard time remembering things. I'm having a hard time with language. My vision has changed significantly, and I'm having a harder time making decisions. That's pretty threatening to the human brain. And so what happens even early on is I might start to be more reactive. And if you're not noticing those changes or shifts, we're missing it in so many of the cases where somebody's been living with dementia for somewhere from 5 to 15 years, and we've totally missed it. And now we're just starting the diagnosis process. That means that I'm a lot further along than people thought. Here's just some vision. This stuff is for you to have after. This is what happens, how we build vision over the years. And so by 72 months, which is, I don't know, six years old, something like that, At 6 years old, you are pretty much developed with your vision, and then it just improves in accuracy and peripheral awareness until age 25. At age 25, then even with healthy aging, we start to lose that 1 degree per year. With neurodegenerative conditions like dementia, notice a steep drop is indicating, whoa, that's a big shift. It could happen anytime. If it's happening anytime after 25 years of age, where I see a steep drop, we want to get really curious. That's not typical for aging. Typical aging, little bit of peripheral. If I'm starting to confuse objects for their use, not typical. If I'm not able to process or see anything, even when I'm looking at it, not typical. So I want to just get to know what's typical, what's not. And this is all information we want our staff and our team to know deeply, but we can't just throw it all at them at once. These are many sessions every week, every month, every year. We repeat some of them because now you have new knowledge. Language skill. No, language skill, it takes a little bit longer to really fully develop language skills. But it's still around the age of 5 to 10 where you're pretty solid, and ages 10 to 18 is where if you're going to learn a new language and you want to sound like a native speaker, those the age. By age 18, you've pretty much built and developed your language accuracy and your ability. And then 18 to 30, you're just banking the words and you're building speed and you're getting faster and better. Around age 30, your language skills continue to build words, but the speed at which you can find those words starts to slow down with aging. So 30 is about the peak there. With typical aging, though, you continue to learn and grow and build your vocabulary. You slow down in speed, but that doesn't take away words. You shouldn't totally lose them. You might lose them in the moment when you see somebody out of context, can't think of their name, but then you think of it later, or it comes to you, or when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah. You shouldn't be losing any ability to name things or find the right word, especially if you have the time and you're not under pressure. That indicates a potential shift that's not typical. So we want to just get more curious about, gosh, how do we start to share this information with people of various ability levels and various languages and various cultures, and we've got to start doing some experiential learning on the floor, in community, with families, with staff, with residents, with leaders, where we're starting to have everybody kind of ask questions and get curious and learn the same things. Because if we can get everybody started with the basic knowledge, we're going to be a lot stronger as a team, because now we have a shared language instead of you think this and I think this and we never actually talked about it. So I know that this person's losing their visual field. You actually have no idea. And so when I tell you, you need to get in front of them, okay? To you, that just seems like a random task that has no value. And so it feels like all I'm doing is coming in and fixing and nagging because I have knowledge that you don't. And so this is the place where we want to get really curious. What does our training look like? And if there's not experiential learning, are we doing only language? And how do we shift that so that there's a little bit more robust learning for our staff, for our team? Here's something else that changes. So we talked about that vision changes. We also talked about that language changes. We lose nouns and the meaning and their use. But so does the body and the ability to figure out, what does pain feel like? Where am I having pain? Is it pain or is it something else? Do I need to just go to the bathroom? So the body actually stops being able to figure out all of the sensations that I'm having either inside or outside, because I'm having a hard time making connections across my entire brain. And the sensory motor strip is out here. prefrontal decision making or trying to figure it out, being logical, is up here, and that hippocampus and amygdala and limbic system is where I'm processing and figuring out, I'm getting the sensations in and they're sending out, but they may not make it to the right destination. Smell changes because I lose the ability to smell smells that should be dangerous. I should know they're dangerous. I don't smell them as dangerous anymore. So like urine and feces, spoiled food, gas, fire, smoke, those things don't trigger an alarm for me anymore. So I might eat food that is totally spoiled and you would walk in and smell it and go, whoa, that's a piece that I'm not able to process anymore. I can still smell, I just don't know that it's unsafe. And similarly, taste changes. We still have those 5 tastes, but I'm processing less well, sweet and salty. So I need more to taste it. And so I'll start really packing on the sugar, packing in the salt to make sure that I can still taste it. And you will see it as illogical or frustrating because I have diabetes. I just am trying to actually there's nothing to it. I can't hold on to it. My taste buds are not receiving it in the same way they used to. Here are 2 brains to kind of show you, and this is all our content. So I'm just going to go through the last little bit here very briefly. 2 brains, 2 gentlemen, same age, same head circumference, same height at death. Brain on the left, healthy brain, healthy aging brain. Brain on the right lived with Alzheimer's for over 10 years. These are the slides, these are the educational pieces that we find vital. Changes in language, this is your left temporal lobe. Notice that it used to be nice and fat and juicy, and now there's just a little bit of outside brain tissue there and it doesn't look super healthy. Hearing doesn't change, other than the age-related losing higher pitches, but the language piece does. And that's an important distinction because I will sound like we're having a conversation. I might say yep or nope, but I'm losing the ability to understand what you're saying or what it means. And so notice the difference between the left temporal lobe change and the right temporal lobe change. And lo and behold, the right has more. But boy, there's still a lot of missing brain tissue here from the first brain to the second brain when it comes to being able to get my body up and moving. Saying sit down or stand up, you're asking me to connect that left temporal lobe up to the sensory motor strip. Unfortunately, the connection is really not there for me anymore. And it's not true of all dementias that they impact it that much that quickly. And all dementias will eventually impact language, even if it's not first. Executive control, that's that prefrontal cortex. Look at all those skills there. Look at that healthy brain and notice, wow, the wiring is just not making it anymore. So these are some numbers that we know to be true because we do this in a lot of places. And this is across the US. Unfortunately, only about 2 out of 10 people, 20%, are receiving an accurate to early to mid state diagnosis. That means roughly 80% are being missed until it's the middle and it really couldn't be anything else. That's when we start the diagnosis process. And so our number of 7 million folks living with dementia, you can multiply it by whatever number you feel is appropriate because we're missing so many folks early on in the condition. And the number of care organizations that we have, which is right here, 66,000 or 60,000, is nowhere near enough to support all of these folks. And even if you do go into care, I may have done this for you guys, so let's see if you remember. You may not remember, and that's okay too, or you may have not seen it. We have 2 numbers that I'm looking for, and you can put them in the chat. CNA licensing hours required, number of licensing hours required to become a certified nursing assistant, and the average for a certified nail technician. I have really nice ones done, check that out. Okay, so two numbers. What do you think for the certified nursing assistant across the US? We'll do that one first. Go ahead and put some numbers in the chat. Let's see what you come up with. And then the nail technician. Go ahead and put that in the chat as well. Let's see what you numbers wise come up with. 80 and 400. Man, good, Sybil. Okay. Oh, you guys are on it. All right, beautiful. Yeah, scary. We are not equipping our CNAs to do the job of the whole body with dementia on top of it, while we're equipping our nail techs to be able to do all kinds of cool things with just a small part of the body. And as far as clinical hours go, there's no state requirement. Some organizations choose to require clinical hours. Video is accepted as the 8 to 12 hours that's required. So we're rapidly running out of time, and I want you to know that all of these slides are there. They will be there later. I wanted to end us with a little bit of a video of something that is really vital for us to share out. So for us, we have a lot of data. This is from an organization they shared out. They're really aiming to hit that turnover hard because it's really a problem. And the cost of hiring a new nurse and a new nursing assistant is super high. So they're throwing money out because they're not training and educating folks on the inside. And what we know is true is that how people get trained matters. So I've included a bunch of data from some of our designated organizations so that you can see that there is good data out there and it does make a difference. People stay on if they feel supported. So before we go, I wanted to play for you a video that was gifted to us by one of our families. His wife is living in a private care, very, very fancy, ritzy memory care up in Massachusetts. And he has the Ring camera set up. It says outside there's Ring camera. The support person has been doing this for 10 years. So she knows dementia. She's not worked with this woman. We'll call her Miss J. And I want you to just notice how you feel.
What happened to your leg?
Oops, hang on. Let me go here from the beginning.
We're gonna go to the bathroom, okay? Come on. Let's get up. Come on. What happened to your leg? What happened to your leg?
So thinking to yourself, what would be different if she knew that language was changing for this person? What could I teach her or show her that would be more effective?
Come on. Come on. What are you doing? Come on, you gotta get up. Come on.
Calling the resident by name.
By name would be helpful. Possibly offering a visual cue so that we knew what was happening or what you're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly slowing
Introducing
down.
herself.
So as they go in,
Let the door handle go.
you'll notice that she's a little unstable. She actually hasn't been up on her feet for 3 days because she had a fall. Didn't hurt, didn't break anything, but had a fall, and so had been in a wheelchair for the past 3 days. And when this was submitted to the administrator, This is the standard of care. She seems fine. There's nothing wrong. Everything looks good on this video. The standard of care is not where we want it to be. And so we have the video of Teepa approaching. We have skills. I'm just going to kind of run it through real quick. And
Teepa.
Teepa.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good.
You doing all right? Yeah. You about ready to get up?
Well, cool.
You could. All right.
all right, so I'm going to show you visually because she gets him up, gets him out. They have a conversation. She turns the light on, and they're up and walking to the bathroom after staff had spent 3 hours. It's 3 hours past the wake up time. One person went in. She couldn't get him up. Brought in a second person. They couldn't get him up, and he ended up scratching the second person. So now there's an incident report, and now we're 3 hours past. And the only information that they had to give Teepa was, be careful, he'll hit you. So we really want to think about not going to a place of blame. Look at how poor our system is set up to support these staff members who are not given the information or the training that they need. We're asking someone with moderate dementia and poor safety awareness, post hip fracture, to use the call bell when they're in pain. And the goal for the staff is to go in and remind them and to keep them to use the walker at all times when they've never used a walker before, and to go in and change their brief every 2 hours. So when we think about it, gosh, what are we asking of people that we haven't even offered an ounce of clinical skill training or demonstration? So for us, our biggest goal is to start thinking about some of these questions and to start building awareness that we may be part of the problem. We don't want to think that. We don't like to think that we could be causing some of the staff's behaviors that we don't like. Because how we work with and talk to our staff is possibly what they're emulating or replicating. And so for us, our biggest goal is to help provide you with some ideas of where do we even start? What do we do? And so this is going to be a question that you guys can explore on the PowerPoint that we have there. Oh, thanks. Put that in the chat. And I will put back up the last slide. Let me go to the end. For those of you that want to stay on, I will grab that really quickly, but thank you. And oh, I wish we always had more time, and I'm sorry.
No,
we didn't get to it all.
Thank you so much. This was excellent, and just so many great ideas and thoughts for staff training. And I'm so glad that we will have access to the slides and to the recording. So we appreciate your time.
Awesome. No, thank you for having me. You guys are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. It's hard work, and I appreciate every one of you. So thanks, Peggy, for having me back.
Thank you. And everyone, if you would please, there's a post survey, and if you'd please complete it and add any topics that you would like for future offerings, we greatly appreciate it. The November Quality Leader session will be on emergency preparedness and focus on cybersecurity. So we'll be sending more information out on that. And this has been recorded and will be available on YouTube under the Constellation Quality Connect site. So thank you, everybody, and have an excellent day. Bye.